If you end up liking this video and finding it helpful, then give it a thumbs up and leave your comments below about what your experiences are of using this video. And also, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the bell button near the subscribe button so that you can be kept informed when future videos like this go live. This is a bedtime story to help you fall asleep comfortably, and as well as helping you fall asleep, this story can also be used to help you move on with grief. It can help to work through the grieving process comfortably and fully, and it'll support that. But if you don't need help to work through the grieving process, then this will just be a bedtime story that will help you relax and fall asleep. And so you can take a moment to close your eyes as you listen to me. And with your eyes closed, so you can begin to have your breathing start to change. You can begin the process of drifting off to sleep. And as you begin the process of drifting off to sleep, so I will talk in the background. And there was a man who worked on a farm, and he'd ran this farm for decades, as his father had done before him and his father before him, back many generations. And he was proud of this farm. And sometimes there would be harsh winters, and sometimes crops wouldn't do so well. Other times there would be an abundance of crops. And the farmer worked really hard on his farming. And there was a tree in the farmer's garden, and he loved this tree. Many years earlier, the tree was planted with his dad. They dug the hole together. And they dropped in a seed, filled the hole in with mud, packed it all down, watered it. And he was only a boy at the time. And so although it was his job to look after the tree and to help this seed grow, he'd keep forgetting. But his dad wouldn't, and his dad kept on going out every day, watering that mud. And then after a while, the tiniest little shoot appeared above the surface of the mud. And the dad continued to water that area. And he nurtured that little shoot. And he helped it to grow. And it grew larger and larger before one day it was large enough to actually cool a sapling. And he continued looking after it, continued watering it. And after a few months, it was growing quite well. And within 6 months to a year, he didn't need to keep going out and watering it. It was growing well enough on its own. And over the years, that tree grew up big and strong. And when his father ended up dying, he set up a bench near the tree so that he could sit in his father's shadow. And being in his father's shadow, in the tree's shadow, he'll feel almost like the shadow's hugging him. And every single day, he'd come out and sit under the tree. And think about his father. And then after a few years, he occasionally found that he'd miss a day or two because of other commitments. And he'd feel a bit bad about this, and so at these times, he would then spend a bit longer when he does sit under the tree. And now, a number of years later, he still thinks of his father every day, but a number of years later, the tree is beginning to wither. And he keeps trying to do what he can to save the tree. But everything he tries just seems to make no difference. And so he continues to try to save this tree every single day. And the tree continues to wither. And eventually the tree reaches the point where it needs cutting down so that it doesn't fall on anyone or hurt anyone. But he's reluctant to cut it down because it was his father's tree. And after a while, he agrees it needs cutting down, so he cuts it down. And he continues having a bench near the stump. And he creates a little area where himself and his family can sit around, and he turns the stump into the base of a table, and he gets some more benches. So that he now has a family table in the middle of the garden where him and his family can enjoy creating memories, where he can help create memories for his children. And he still misses his father. But his children ask him, what was Grandad like? And his smile, his face lights up while he explains to them what Grandad was like and recounts stories, and their face lights up in return. And the farmer realizes that his dad is still alive within him, and that as long as he has the memories, then people live beyond death. And the farmer gets to work on his farm one day. He's not a huge fan of technology, so he gets to work with an old-fashioned horse and plough, walking along behind the horse, keeping the plough on track as it churns up the mud. And he spends most of the day with that plough churning up the mud, preparing the field for planting crops. And then he follows a horse with a new attachment on his back, holding it on track while it plants seeds, churning some soil up over the top of the seeds, over the crops. And they have some problems with birds coming and trying to get the seeds before they have a chance to settle in. But he has a couple of pet cats which enjoy running around the farm. And they never actually catch the birds. They're the kind of cat that's not particularly interested in the actual catching of the birds. They're interested in the chase. And so he gets his cats out to his field, and they spend the day just running around, having fun, chasing the birds as the birds land, making the birds take off again. And then in the evening they feel like they've earned a good meal. They come back to the farmhouse, settle down, and get given some nice fresh food to enjoy. And as the seasons move forward, so the farmer notices the crops growing up, getting larger and larger. And there's rain that comes, and there's sun. Then he goes out and harvests the crops. Some he keeps for himself and his family, others he takes into town and sells. And as the seasons continue, the nights begin to get shorter. The weather and temperature begins to cool down. All the plants begin to set in for the winter. It looks like they're all dying as they lose their leaves and are no longer bright and colourful. And frost comes and snowfall comes, and the ground turns rock solid. And the farmer and his family live off of their crops and buy some other items as well. And the farmer knows there's not a lot he can do with farming during the winter. So during the winter he finds fun things to do with his family. He takes the kids out on sledges. drags them around in the snow. They set up big snow forts and have snowball fights, normally kids versus parents. And the kids love creating armies of snow people. And they enjoy the winter together, because the farmer's aware that come spring his work starts picking up and he has to work hard. And so after the winter, spring starts coming around. The sun starts rising earlier, setting a little later. The weather begins to warm up. And the farmer's aware this is the time of new life. As spring well and truly sets in, insects come out, butterflies, bees. Many birds appear, birds he hasn't seen since the previous year. And as spring moves forward, so the farmer sees numerous baby animals, baby ducklings, baby foxes, different baby birds. And as the season continues and moves into summer, so there's an explosion of colour and warmth. And everything feels so good. And the farmer has to work hard. He has to work from dawn till dusk every day. Things grow so quickly during this period of time. But just like every year, summer moves into autumn. And with autumn, the bees and the birds and the butterflies begin to be seen less and less. Young animals are seen less and less, because they've grown up more and they're going back and heading off to different places. That's it. And leaves start turning golden brown. And some mornings the farmer wakes up and there's a chill in the air. As winter's approaching. And on the one hand, the farmer's sad that the summer's over and that winter's approaching. Because it's such a nice, happy time. On the other hand, the farmer's happy because he gets to join in the fun with his family. All spring, all summer. His family have fun times together while he works hard. Now he gets to enjoy the fun times with his family. And then during winter again, the farmer enjoys time with his family. They have the most beautiful meals with great smells, smiling, laughing, noise of a family home. And the farmer's aware that one day the children will grow up and leave home. And in these four walls it'll all go quiet. There'll just be him and his wife. And he'll miss his children not being there. But he's aware, because he grows up on a farm and has lived on a farm his whole life, that things always change and move. And he's aware that never mind how far away his children travel and what they get up to in their lives, any time he thinks about them, he can smile and be brought pleasure by the memories of the time they've had together before they left home. That's it. And he's aware that his kids will miss him too. And his table outside in the back garden will feel a quiet, lonely place to sit. But whenever he sits at that table, he feels a sense of calmness, of serenity, of pleasure. Different thoughts and memories that make him feel happy come into his mind. And so whenever he just wants to have that feeling, that sense of peace and calmness and serenity, all he has to do is sit down at that table. And he'll sit down at that table with a drink and just enjoy being
with memories of fun times with family. And there are times his children will visit. And he wouldn't change the life of being a farmer for anything in the world. He knows it's hard work. He knows there's unpredictable things that happen. He knows that sometimes crops don't grow. Other times too many crops grow and he can't get rid of them all. He knows it's long and hard work. But he also knows it's all worth it. And you can drift comfortably and relax to sleep, just as the farmer every night enjoys lying down with his wife and comfortably drifting off to sleep in the knowledge of what he has